Are we betraying Ukraine right now? Are we in the process of rewarding Russia? So what's going on right now? We have Donald Trump, who clearly wants to end this conflict, this war. I really don't like the word conflict. It sounds like there's a legitimate conflict between Russia and Ukraine. There isn't. There is a war of aggression. Ukraine is innocent. Ukraine was attacked because they dared to want to become democratic. They dared to want to promote an alternative way to be a big country close to Russia, people related in many ways to Russia, although not being Russians, striving for democracy, freedom, and human rights. Zelensky, through his television show, through his politics, has tried to de-Sovietize, de-corruptify Ukraine. He hasn't always succeeded. Before him, there was Poroshenko. And since Ukraine ousted Yanukovych, a completely corrupt, Russian-influenced president, since then Russia has had a problem. Ukraine provided a counterexample of what it means to be a somehow Russian-like people that live in a completely different world than most Russians. If Ukrainians can have democracy, less corruption, and trade and interact freely with the West, why can't Russians do that? That is at the core of this. You have a criminal in the Kremlin, a KGB mobster, dictator, idiot, who thinks he can get away with this. Now, in his defense, we've let him get away with this previously. Who has let him get away with this? Europe, specifically Germany. The Nord Stream pipelines were a direct tool for Putin to wage war on Ukraine back then already. Was a preparation for excluding Ukraine from the gas flows in order to make Ukraine economically irrelevant for Europe so they could attack. Crimea was given to Ukraine because it's not sustainable as part of Russia because you need the water and all of this. Is a complicated situation. Khrushchev didn't give Ukraine Crimea because of the goodness of his heart, but because geographically it belongs there. All the Ukrainian areas under Russian control had voted to join Ukraine when Ukraine became independent. There's no doubt about this. None of these people wanted to be in Russia. Well, majority-wise. Russia has neither a democratic, nor a cultural, nor political, nor legal right to any of those territories. If you ask me what the negotiations should be about, it's about the amount of reparations that Russia has to pay, about how Russia has to support Ukraine in restoring Ukrainian territories, which of course have to all go back to Ukraine. That means Luhansk, Donetsk, Crimea, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. There's no doubt about this. And the other question is where Putin moves to. Den Haag, or in the basement of where Navalny, Nemtsov, or Politkovskaya right now are. There's no doubt that that's the only solution. Are we in the process of giving Russia something that they don't deserve? And when I mean Russia, I don't mean ordinary Russians. I mean the criminal regime that is occupying Ukraine, killing Ukrainians, and also, by the way, ethnically cleansing their own poorer areas in Russia. Because that's the other genocide that's going on. not just against Ukraine. Putin wants to eliminate Ukraine as an independent cultural and political entity. His cronies always speak about how Ukrainians are Russians with a mental illness, because their mental illness is that they believe they're Ukrainians, even though they allegedly are Russians. They're not. But at the same time, Putin has recruited masses of young men and middle-aged and old men, mainly from minority areas, from poor areas, and he's eliminating those people. It's good Russian tradition, not good, but old Russian tradition. I'm sorry, I'm sarcastic. I shouldn't do that, but you see, I'm angry, I'm sarcastic. It's an old Russian tradition of getting rid of the people that you don't want. So Ukraine may actually be in the process right now of really standing up to Russia. Ukraine needs more support, and Russian economy needs more punishment. This war may not be winnable on the battlefield, but it may be winnable on the economic area. And if Ukraine can just hold out for another half a year or year and a half, minimizing their losses, that may actually go Ukraine's way. This is why Russia is panicking right now. Don't mistake what's happening now for something else. Russia is panicking. Putin is panicking. Don't believe a single word that Lavrov says. Lavrov has been a liar throughout all these years. He's the biggest liar in Putin's service. It's sad what happened to him. So sad. I don't know how much of a choice he has, but you make a deal with the devil, you go down with the devil. What's Trump's role in this? Trump wants peace. He said that. Well, wanting and getting it are two different things. Don't take everything Trump is saying literal. He has a very indirect way of getting what he wants. First thing we need to realize is Trump won the election. Don't argue how narrow, how big, bigly, whatever. He outsmarted the Democrats. He outsmarted the moderate Republicans. That's why they're all sitting there saying, what you gonna do? Personally, I trust the ego of every single Republican member of Congress in wanting to be reelected, in wanting to be part of a system that works overall. With all its dysfunction, but there are worse things than America. Come here, drive around. Yes, there's problems, but there are problems everywhere. But once you realize how rich the US is, how well off most people are compared to other countries, the situation is not as dire as people want you to believe. A lot of this is theater. Some of it is serious. I'm not happy about the whack-a-mole approach to the federal government. I understand we need to cut some money. I don't think that's the best case, but I'm not president. He wanted tougher border control with Canada and Mexico. He said, I want tariffs. He didn't want tariffs. Tariffs are idiotic. He knows that. But they're a good tool to threaten. Tariff deadline came. Canada and Mexico promised something they probably already had thought of doing. Trump happy, tariffs postponed, oh, gone. Now, when Hegseth said it is unrealistic for Ukraine to get back all its territory, well, in parentheses, militarily. Of course, it's not likely, but he didn't say they will not get it back. It says unrealistic. Look at the nuance. Now, it's difficult for some to imagine Pete Hegseth and nuance in the same sentence, but don't fall for it again. Don't think people are stupid. Assume them to be worthy opponents. Then Hegseth said, it's unlikely that Ukraine will be in NATO. Well, Biden was against it. Germany has been against it, in France. Germany and France have been at the forefront of promising Ukraine something, then withdrawing and being part of the problem. I'm from Germany. I can say that. Sorry. Is it realistic that Ukraine is in NATO soon? Well, Hungary will veto it as long as Putin is alive, and whatever Putin has on Hungary, mostly gas and oil. So no. NATO has to vote on it. If NATO can vote on it, then no. Also in 2008, when the first time this arose, Ukraine wasn't the same country. So 2008, saying no to NATO for Ukraine may have made some sense. To be in NATO, you have to be solidly democratic, solidly integratable into the Western system. It's an alliance of values. And yeah, Russia was offered NATO membership. They declined because they probably knew we don't want these values, because they threatened the criminal enterprise of the Russian leadership. So what you could say, giving up NATO membership, giving up land, what does this do? Well, it does the following. Again, interpreting it generously. Putin says, NATO is the problem. Trump says, NATO is not the problem. I took it off the table. Well, we don't want to give up territory. Well, territory is negotiable. What this does is it makes Russia have no excuse anymore. Russia claims it's about NATO. Russia claims it's about the land. It's not. It's about them wanting to be an empire. So today, Marco Rubio and Lying Lavrov met with some others, and he had a press conference, and Rubio was clear. Ukraine will be part of it. Europe will be part of it. There's not going to be peace until everybody is happy. So let's see. Is it good or bad if a war ends? It's good. It has to end the right way. It can't end like Ukraine is completely toothless. Ukraine will be the victim of Russian further aggression in the future. And Russia gets away with it. That's not an end of the war. And if you listen to Rubio, what you could have heard if you wanted to was, calm down, everyone. We're diplomats. We talk in diplomatic language. Trust us. Measure us by our actions. Am I a fan of the Trump government? No. Politically, I'm independent. I don't want to be beholden to anyone. I will speak out against any government if I have to. But I also have to give benefit of the doubt, even to people I don't like. And so what are we left with here? We are left with me being angry and exasperated, of course, because there's the perception that Russia's getting away with it. Perceptions sometimes can become reality, and that is a danger. So I would like everybody to be a little bit more professional. I would like everybody to show a little bit more deliberation. And not go into automatic panic mode, because who likes our panicking? Vladimir Putin likes it. Who likes our surrenderous attitude? President Xi likes it. Yes, the West argues. Yes, the Munich conference had some interesting speeches. It's a strength, it's not a weakness. Us in the West bickering with each other is what we do. It's a strength. We should calm down about this. We won't always agree. Yes, Vance spoke about Europe and free speech. Well, the American understanding of free speech is different than the European ones. The Americans really value free speech a little bit more. There have been some tendencies in Europe that are a little bit worrisome, but Germany also has a certain past, and, some forms of hate speech, some political parties in Germany, like the AfD, maybe they shouldn't be normalized. But instead of focusing on Vance's speech, he also went to the Dachau concentration camp with his Indian wife. He has gotten hate, his wife has gotten hate, because there are some racists also in the United States. He knows what racism is. He knows what fascism is. He also wrote a book, Hillbilly Elegy, on basically how to listen to people, give people a voice that have been discriminated. Was this the right speech at the right time? Maybe not. Do I agree with everything in it? No, some of it was true, some of it was fake news. Okay. But our disagreement needs to lead to us welcoming our diversity, welcoming the conversation, being in dialogue and expecting the best of each other, even if we fear for the worst. This is how we win. This is how we prevail, by saying our values are stronger than Putin's criminality. Our embracing of difference is stronger than Putin's authoritarianism. Our political messiness and our political dysfunction creates results. It's not pretty, but it's better than a dictatorship. I grew up in one. I don't want that again. So, to conclude, sorry for being a little angry. It's an aggravating time. But I'm telling you, I hope I validated your own anger and frustration. But I am also ironically calling for calming us down, looking at it rationally, supporting Ukraine, supporting democracy, supporting freedom of speech, supporting each other, listening to each other. And what's this called? Keep calm and carry on. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. This is Dr. Philip Kneis. This is Erratic Attempts, and see you soon.